let's go a little deeper into colic and what are the symptoms and some of the treatments.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, I did mention what colic can appear like, which is kicking up into the kicking up into the gut, and then of course you can have sweating, and of course the horse can be in quite a lot of pain. So it's very different to ulcers in the sense that colic is an acute condition that can be quite dangerous. A lot of people worry a lot about colic, and again, you do need emergency intervention for colic if that's what's actually happening. But what can you do herbally? So I may have mentioned before a little bit about the parasympathetic nervous system and how the digestive system does this amazing action, and it's sort of peristalsis, it massages all the food, and that's actually what's moving all that food that's being eaten into the digestive system, and it's pumping through back, then further down into the large intestine and the colon. So what happens in colic is you might get parts of the colon, you might get parts of any part of the bowel in that process starting to go into a spasm, and that's actually what colic is. Now, usually that type of colic is related to, could be magnesium deficiency, it could be anxiety, it could be stress, it could be just general inflammatory processes happening, and there is something going on there that's not quite right. Those colics are quite easy to manage, and those colics we find can benefit a lot by herbs that actually relax the parasympathetic nervous system and also muscles. So valerian's very good, chamomile's very good in those situations. So we have a product that's called the Colic Recovery, which works on the idea that it will help to reduce spasm. It's got black cohosh in there, which is actually it's an amazing herb as an anti-spasm herb. And so if we're working along those lines, then your job as the owner is simply to call your vet, keep working with keeping your horse relaxed, using something like this herbal formula while you're waiting for the vet to arrive, and then of course once you've had the full diagnosis and you understand what's happening, then you can, if it has been fully confirmed that it is a stress related colic, then you can continue to use that colic recovery as your horse is recovering further on down the track. I also use that particular formula in cases of lymphoma. It's interesting actually, because horses and dogs and cats who actually get lymphoma do end up getting quite a lot of digestive complaints, because there is a lot of lymphatic tissue right near the digestive system, and that's all basically all housed in the same area. So if there is a cancer there, horses and dogs will often get a lot of pain. And they'll get colic, frequent bouts of colic. So we'll often use that to help those horses during that painful process.
Okay, so I might just read out a question that we often get. It's this one's just come in topically yesterday, but it's a very common type question, and it gives a scenario of this person's horse and the issues with it. So they've got a horse that had IBS and or reoccurring colitis. I was told this evening that the diagnosis was irritable bowel syndrome. Before it was colitis. She was misdiagnosed for colic and had colic surgery.
Yeah.
So the horse has gone through a bit of a drama. It's been misdiagnosed a couple of times, got a few issues. What's the treatment? What are we doing for this horse?
Because there's a dysbiosis, there is an inflammation process, and that's why when you're looking at diagnosis is a suite of symptoms that helps the vet to try and work out a treatment plan. That's the primary purpose of doing a differential diagnosis. Now, incorrect diagnosis, they're not really incorrect, because the fact is these things are probably coexisting. There's a whole heap of things coexisting in the system, and you can't blame the vets that's saying that it was misdiagnosed for a start. I'll just say that because vets work very hard to try and get the right thing. The problem is that, and I'm saying this with the deepest respect, the problem is that vets are not geared to have some simple non-intervention strategies that don't cause further problems. So herbs are very good because we can start with some very good dietary and herbal changes to reduce inflammation, improve dysbiosis, improve peristalsis, and improve the overall nervous system of that whole working system, so that these things become less and less a problem. So as I've already explained, if colic's an issue, I mean, colic is one of those, it's a reactive thing. It's something that's happening within the nervous system and the body's reacting. And then we've got, again, the mucus, which isn't, the mucosal lining that's not working well. So there's a whole bunch of things and of course, every time there is a degree of interruption in the healthy lining of the gut, you're building up pockets of infection. So this is where you're getting this idea of either colitis, or you're getting issues with irritable bowel syndrome. So there's dry bowel and then loose bowel, dry bowel and loose bowel. And this causes, again, a healthy part of the bowel, moving into a not so healthy part of the bowel, and then there's issues with the nervous system into that tissue, and that's causing part of these irregularities in the gut. We need to look at the system much more holistically and as one whole unit.